5 police in Aruba have made a new arrest in connection with the disappearance of Mountain Brook teenager Natalee Holloway. They've arrested the father of a Dutch teen who's been in custody for 2 weeks. The wife of Paul Vandersloot says her husband was just picked up by police. Anita Vandersloot says she thought her family was innocent. Now she, quote, doesn't know what to think.
The neighbor called and somebody called from the house that there was a lot of police around the house and they were there to speak to Paul. And Paul, because in my conversation with Joran said, "Mommy, I'm so afraid they're picking up Daddy because that's what they're telling me. They're going to pick him up because to ask him about all kind of things, and they think he's involved in anything."
Mrs. Vandersloot says she believes her son is being unfairly targeted simply because he was one of the last people to see Natalee Holloway. Anita Vandersloot says her son, Joran, is mentally strong, but she also thinks the interrogations would have broken him down by now if he knew anything. The Dutch teen's mother says a meeting with Holloway's mother was very emotional, and she can't understand why Holloway thinks Joran and the others being detained know more than they've already told investigators. Vandersloot says her son is just an ordinary teenager who is getting ready to go to college in the U.S. She says, why would a boy with a normal life, quote, do something wrong to a girl he had just met? And while the investigation seems to be heating up there in Aruba, a U.S.-based company is preparing to help in the search for Natalee. In 450 searches for missing people, the search and rescue group Texas EcuSearch has found its target 70% of the time. EcuSearch is sending volunteers to Aruba tomorrow at the family's request. Volunteers say the organization plans a full-scale, round-the-clock ground and water search with divers, night vision goggles, and sonar equipment. EcuSearch was created by Tim Miller after his 16-year-old daughter Laura disappeared in Texas and was found dead 17 months later.
So you think and wait one second, I want to be clear on what I heard you say, TJ. You actually think that Natalee may not have been killed in the traditional sense as we might think, but that she died as a result of whatever occurred that night, and in an effort to cover up her death, she was disposed of. That's what you think happened?
I think that I think something happened. And I've said that all along. I think that Natalee either stopped breathing, had a heart attack, fell and hit her head, but something happened, and somebody else is involved with the boy's contacting somebody else, and the body was taken or disposed off the island. From information that I have, that Natalee's body was taken off the island by somebody, not by the boys. But I'm real surprised because some of the information that I have leads to Paulus Vandersloot having knowledge to this occurring.
Yes, says police have issued a warrant in connection to the case. Investigative reporter Tito LeClay joins us live in Aruba with the breaking details. Tito, who do the police have a warrant for tonight?
They have issued a warrant, or an order rather, for this man to come in. The man is one of the detectives that was hired to help with the case. Apparently they have a problem with him doing his job or working on the island without a permit. They've already issued a warning for him. Apparently he did not adhere to the warning. This time they said any means to get him in, talk to him, and if necessary arrest him and deport him off the island.
All right, so basically the police have a warrant right here for an American that they want to pick up who's helping out the Holloway family.
A warrant, basically an order for him to come in right away.
All right, who is this person?
TJ Ward.
And he's the private investigator that the family has brought into the island.
That's correct.
All right. When they find him, when they pick him up, what are they going to do with him?
They're going to hear him out. They're going to ask him exactly what it is he was doing. If he has no good reason or answer, they'll probably deport him right away from the island.
What's the problem they have with the private detective the family brought in?
Apparently him working and not doing... when you're on the island working, you need a permit. It's as basic as that. He doesn't have a permit. He's been working. They have information that he's been working, and that is illegal on the islands.
Well, is it a little bit? I mean, I'm sure that's a violation. You got to have a permit, but they're sort of singling him out. I mean, they're trying to get rid of him.
Basically, they said anybody that is working illegally, and this being him too, they had complaints about him apparently, knocking on doors apparently, asking questions, basically working as a police officer or as an investigative person, and they have a problem with that apparently.
All right. Well, if they take this American in custody for helping the Holloway family, I'm sure there's gonna be a lot more. There'll be a lot of people be talking about that. All right, well, he's someplace on the island tonight, right, T.J. Ward?
He is on the island, we understand, and I'm not sure that they found him already or he has appeared already, and if he doesn't, they'll pick him up and any means to bring him in.
All right, so the police are looking for T.J. Ward here tonight. He's a detective hired by the family. If this were not so tragic, we might all be reciting the joke, "Who's on first?" to describe this investigation. Yes, another suspect in the disappearance of Natalee Holloway, arrested, accused of murder, and now released. Natalee Holloway's parents sit by, they wait, and they hope. Joining us in Birmingham is Natalee Holloway's mother, Beth Twitty. Beth, tonight we've learned a couple things. One is we know that Guido Weaver, arrested about 5 days ago, now released today, and that there's been a search warrant apparently executed at his house this afternoon in Aruba. What do you think?
Well, I didn't know that. I mean, I just have really kind of gotten back in touch with communication. So there was a search warrant this afternoon issued for his home. Is that right?
That's right. After he was released, after he was arrested, he was detained, he was questioned. The chief prosecutor says don't detain him anymore. He's released, and then they executed a search warrant on his home in Aruba 9 months after he left the home.
Wow. I'm just unbelievable. You know, wow, Greta, you know, John warns us every time, you know, just don't have raised expectations, but, you know, that is, gosh, that is so difficult for us to do. You know, we just bite on them every single time, Greta, and, you know, I just think that, you know, it just has to be normal. I mean, I'm glad I'm reminded of that constantly, but it is so difficult not to think that something could come of this.
Here's another thing we learned tonight from Tito Leclerc. He said that one of the reasons that Guido Weaver was picked up was because about 9 months after your daughter disappeared, that people came forward and said they saw scratches on his face. Tito also told us, though, about 3 days after your daughter disappeared, that he was questioned by the police, and there's no indication the police saw any scratches. Your thought about that?
Well, I did hear from several people that were aware of what was happening with the new suspect early on, and I know that when the police interviewed him or questioned him, they took him into the casino owner's office, who is Mike Posner, and took he and several of the employees into his office with the police. And you know, I think that from what I understood, that just what was reported to me, that he became very nervous, was just you know, very edgy as to, you know, the questioning that was going on among the employees, and I think it was raising some suspicion. It must have, because he was discussed with us as a person of interest, even with the prosecuting attorney, as early as, well, as late as August.
Tonight, a possible break in the case of missing Alabama teenager Natalee Holloway. Aruban police arrested a 19-year-old man yesterday. They're only releasing his initials, GVC. They're not saying how he's connected to that case, but the arrest came shortly after a tip on a possible location where Holloway's body is buried. Not long after Dutch TV aired an America's Most Wanted type of special on that case.
It's not just a case about a girl, it's reality. It's an 18-year-old girl who was here having a good time and who vanished without a trace.
Well, people last saw Natalee Holloway leaving a bar with former suspect Joran Sloot and 2 other men on May 30th. Both Holloway's father and Sloot's attorney say they do not know who this new suspect is.
ABC News has identified the man arrested in connection with Natalee Holloway's disappearance. Police in Aruba will only say the suspect's initials are GVC. According to ABC News, those initials belong to Jeffrey von Kromfort, a 19-year-old who worked for a security company patrolling beaches. Police have been searching for Holloway for almost a year now. Her father says investigators have never before mentioned this man.
He has never been on the radar screen. I've never heard his name before, so, you know, apparently it's a very, very new lead.
Holloway was last seen leaving a bar with 3 men. They were detained for a while, but never charged.
And TJ, let me play another part. I had Beth Holloway, of course, Natalee's mom, on my show last night. And I asked her because she and I had also talked about some things that she had read, some statements that Joran and some other boys made about using another boy's father's boat that night. This is something that had never come up before, maybe signaling that someone else was involved. Take a listen to what Beth said on the show last night.
Coon's father has a boat, and from what I'd understood, that there was some activity with that boat during the early morning hours of May 30th once these boys took Natalee. To what extent, we don't know.
TJ, you definitely believe that there are others involved if indeed these boys played a role.
Aruba police and the FBI are now working together to find an Alabama high school student who vanished during a class trip to the Caribbean island. Investigators are focusing on 3 men who they say took 18-year-old Natalee Holloway to a beach and then dropped her off at the hotel. The men are Aruban residents between 18 and 25 years old. They are considered persons of interest and the most important lead investigators have tonight. More now from reporter Jim Acosta.
On the postcard perfect beaches of Aruba, a mystery has come ashore. Earlier this week, Alabama teenager Natalee Holloway vanished on the island without a trace.
And I will stay here until I find you, Natalee.
Moments after learning of their daughter's disappearance, the teen's parents rushed to Aruba. Their 18-year-old had just graduated from high school and was celebrating on the island with more than 100 other classmates and adult chaperones. Friends say the last time they saw Natalee was at a rowdy Aruba night spot that's well known for its wild parties.
But at least 10 of them saw her leave in a small 4-door car, not sure of the make, bluish gray color, and there were 3 locals in the car with her.
Aruban investigators say they've questioned those 3 locals who claim they dropped off Natalee at her hotel later that night.
We're going to find her. We're going to find her.
Back in Alabama, Natalee's family and friends wait and worry.
It's hard. It's the not knowing, I think, and the waiting to get the phone call that she's on her way. That's been hard for these kids and everybody.
She's the most responsible, smart, beautiful, incredible friend that I've ever known. This is out of her character.
Because crime is almost non-existent in Aruba, locals are speculating Natalee has simply island hopped somewhere else. But that would mean this high school standout with a full scholarship to the University of Alabama left without saying goodbye to anyone. Jim Acosta, CBS News, Atlanta.
The pursuit for answers in the disappearance of U.S. teenager Natalee Holloway may have hit a roadblock. The father of the only remaining suspect in Holloway's disappearance has died. 57-year-old Paul Vandersloot died of a heart attack Wednesday after playing tennis. Vandersloot's son, Joran, has been declared the only suspect in Holloway's case, but so far no charges have been filed. The 18-year-old from Alabama was last seen leaving a bar in the Aruban capital on the final night of a high school graduation trip. Joran Vandersloot has admitted being with Holloway on the night of her disappearance. There's been no sign of her since that night, which was in May of 2005. Ed Donahue, The Associated Press.
Natalee Holloway missing persons case, one of the most infamous of all time. Now, the disappearance in 2005 is back in the news because of a man with ties to the case being killed today in Florida, the Bay Area, in Northport. Police say he was trying to kidnap his girlfriend when she turned the tables and stabbed him. Lloyd Sowers is on this one. What a peculiar story near Northport. Lloyd, the man who was killed today, he actually admitted to helping dispose of Natalee Holloway's body, right?
That's right, Mark. John Ludwig says he helped Joran Vandersloot do away with Natalee Holloway's body, cremate Natalee Holloway's body. But Ludwig himself was killed today here in Northport, adding another twist to this infamous case.
Where'd you take the remains?
To my property. John Ludwig, the man who was killed in Northport, told an interviewer on Oxygen TV that he cremated the body of Natalee Holloway and burned her skull after he doused it in gasoline, as he admitted in this Oxygen documentary.
The only thing that got burnt was the skull to burn the hair fibers. It was doused in gasoline in a fire pit in the cave.
Ludwig was reportedly the best friend of Holloway's alleged killer, Joran Vandersloot. Ludwig lived in Port Charlotte and came here to Northport, police say, to kidnap his female former roommate. But instead, police say she stabbed him.
You have somebody who's very vocal about being involved with another young lady's death. So yeah, you're going to have those thoughts, and you know, maybe there's a correlation there or something.
But so far, police haven't linked it to the Holloway case. After he was stabbed, Ludwig fled bleeding. He was pronounced dead at the hospital.
John was a attention seeker. John wanted, he was just like Sloot. He just wanted attention on him.
Ludwig's friend, Gabriel Madrigal, says Ludwig was suicidal at times and sometimes changed his story about Sloot and Holloway. He says Ludwig didn't have anything to do with killing Holloway, but he did help Sloot get rid of her remains.
He did burn the skull. That is true, just to get the hair off. That is so true. But cremating the body, no, it never happened. It never happened.
Whatever he knew about Natalee Holloway, John Ludwig now takes to the grave in this weird twist in an infamous case. By the way, Joran Sloot is in prison in Peru for killing another young woman. He's to be extradited back to the U.S. in 2038 to face charges in the Holloway case. We now know that he will not be reunited with his friend John Ludwig, who was killed here in Northport today.